Hey Jay, I'm gonna make a video to show you what's up. So it's like this, check this out. So this is how I have this truck tied down. So if you look closely, you'll see that I got a crisscross X right here in my chain. Boomers are hooked to the trailer, or you can hook the end of the chain to the trailer and put the boomer in the middle. But the thing that counts is you got one straight chain right there, and you got one straight chain right here. And this chain right here, it's slack. That's not counted as a single chain. This is counted as two separate hookups. Now what I did, if you can see, is I used the end of the hook and hooked around the axle itself into the chain. I didn't loop anything, just used the ends of the hooks to hook that one and the one that's on the other side. And you want the loops as short as possible, and you want the hooks, if you can tell, see where my hooks are, they're facing against the equipment, so that the open end is facing out, pulling away from the chain, so there's no chance in case it does bounce it won't come unhooked. So the crisscross setup is good for any type of truck vehicle, trailer, car, unless you got something. If I was to hook the chain from the inside of the axle here straight out this way, I would be hitting the tire. I'd be rubbing against the tire and shit. So you walk around to the front over here, and this set of drives, put pull downs on the front set. Did the same thing, except for this time I wrapped around the pumpkin on the inside of the axle. It's got breather tubes and shit more on the outside. The brake cans are more in the way. So I wrapped around close to the pumpkin on the inside of the axle, and then crossed it the same way. Did the same thing, still got slack in the chain right here, so it's not counted as a single chain, it's counted as two separate hookups. This is legal to hook it to the rub rail. If you don't like to do that, you can take the end of the chain and hook it around your square pocket or your round pocket, depending on what you have. But if you do that, then you're gonna have to use two separate chains on the same tie down. You can't use one. Okay, so that takes care of that. And on the front, this is how I hooked it up. So the front set of chains is crisscrossed again, slack right here. And this chain, they're both hooked in the same spot around the front axle. The one on the rear is hooked down lower with the hooks facing inward or outward, so that in case they come unhooked, they won't come unhooked. Except for I didn't get that one on that side the right way, but it'll still be alright, I think. So that way it's below the tie rod and pulling evenly on both sides. And then the front set are hooked directly on each side of the axle, both on this side of the spring block. So I want to make sure your chains are the furthest out point. You don't want to wrap the chain around the leaf, the U-bolts, and pull that way, because you might bend the U-bolts or fuck up something with the suspension. You always want to try to get a solid hook on the axle itself and pull that way. So that way I got front tension and back tension. I also put a block board here like you did on yours before. I did that on mine, so I had like a bump stop in case something up here side come loose or whatever else. Also, when you have to put a bump stop like this on a vehicle, whatever, makes you drive forward up on it, so it's locked tight. And you can kind of see where the tires are bulged a little bit because it's got pressure. And then you just do your chains, tighten your chains down and everything, and that's how you tie a truck like this size down. You could get away with the two tight ends in the like if you're just going somewhere, you could probably just do two chains in the very rear and two chains in the front. But since this is traveling such a great distance, I would strongly recommend you chain the front and the rear duals down, and then put a single chain set up in the front. And you could get away with that as well, but I put one behind the steer too, in case of anything that would like lunge forward or jump up and shit like that, you know. I always try to think safety first on a lot of things, and like everything here, this chain's free, so it's not considered one chain, that's considered two tie downs. Okay, there you go, bud.